Coming up on iOS today, it is time to batten down the hatches and prepare yourself for spam calls, spam texts, and all sorts of ways that people are trying to gain access to your information. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Are you looking to break into the world of IT? Well, get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code TWIT30 at checkout. Hey, hello, and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, HomePod OS, iPad OS, Watch OS. I may have said that one already, but look, there are a lot of OSs that Apple has on offer, and we like to talk about them here on iOS Today. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Rosemary. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, Micah. Better than some of the people who've been contacting us, contacting Leo and some other people who we're hopefully going to give some advice to today. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So I have gotten a number of emails and text messages. One of the most common one, actually, is reported, to be from my my cellular carrier, AT&T, and it'll say, "Hey, your November bill is paid. Thanks so much. Here's a reward for paying your November bill." And then there'll be this link to some, I don't even know because I don't click on the link in the first place, but some terrible place. The link isn't even an AT&T link. It's some shortener link. And what's funny is I only pay my November bill once and my December bill once and my January bill once, but I will get that email 3 or 4 times, or that text message 3 or 4 times over the course of the month, alleging that I have paid my bill yet again and am able to claim an award, a reward for that. Another common text message, and I think I may have deleted it, but it said something along the lines of, thank you for purchasing this subscription to blah, 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 blah. Here is your receipt. And obviously, that is not, then I'll look and see in the message or in the email, it's nothing that I've ever purchased before. Mm-hmm. And what they're trying to get you to do is panic a little bit because you've just allegedly spent $400, $500 on this thing that you didn't buy. And so you click on the link to just look at it, but you're hoping to go to that link to be able to dispute the charge. And then another one that I've been getting lately is your browsing history showed visits to unsecured websites. You now have 3 virus, and I love this. They don't even say viruses. You now have 3 virus on your device. Clean your phone ASAP. And then there's a link to click on. So
yeah,
this episode, look, you've got them too. Go down yours.
The other thing is sometimes we actually have genuine messages from people like this as well. These are messages from my carrier. And so what I actually need to do is I actually need to text stop to this number, which is 2040 for people in the UK on EE, to stop these messages coming in, because sometimes we do get legitimate messages. And the fact that we get so many messages makes it really difficult to tell the difference sometimes between them. And sometimes I look at things and I go, oh, that must be spam. And I realize afterwards, no, it's genuine. Or most of the time, actually, it is spam. But if you can train your default assumption for it to be spam, it's probably better for you.
Absolutely. And that's actually was going to be my first tip for everybody out there is lead with skepticism when it comes to this. Because if you lead with skepticism, you already have your protective barrier up. I can't remember which show I was on, but it may have been even Twit earlier at the end of last year, but I'm incredibly proud of my grandma because I had gotten a lot of these and I started thinking about my grandma and I said, okay, I need to talk to her. And so I started talking to her and listing off some different ones and ones that I started to feel a little bit duped by. And she's like, oh, I haven't clicked on any of those. I haven't looked at any of those. Basically, every time I get one of those, I just roll my eyes. And I thought, I am so proud of you because you could at first, especially the way that they do try to do these to get you to have a little bit of panic in your chest. And then you kind of aren't thinking with that bit of skepticism. But yes, the best thing to do is lead with skepticism. And here's the deal. If you think that your actual bank did contact you, don't ever click on the link that is given in the message. Go to your bank's website that you know is your bank's website, and then go in and see if there are any messages or alerts or what have you. Or your carrier, you can always go to their website or use the app that you have on your phone if you have one of their apps and do it from there. So tapping or clicking on those links is often an issue. But I want to talk about Instagram too. So Instagram is, for some reason, there have been some kind of one-click hacks that have been taking place on Instagram. And people are getting their accounts stolen left and right. On the radio show, we've had some call-ins from folks who had their accounts stolen who were looking for ways to get them back. And we've shared some links in the past. You can go to techguylabs.com, which will send you to the portion of the site that talks about, or that has links to different things. But Instagram has a support page, which we will link in the show notes, that will help you figure out what to do if your Instagram account has been hacked. In fact, there's a whole page called I Think My Instagram Has Been Hacked, and it will walk you through what to do if that's the case. But let's not get there in the first place, right? Let's make sure that we've got everything locked down and protected. The first thing to do here is, once again, not clicking on links that are sent via DM unless you know they are from a trusted source. So if Rosemary, for example, and I can look at the history of our conversation in Instagram to know that it is indeed her, that I've been talking to her, and that this is the conversation that we've been having. If she sends me a link, I know that I'm okay to click on that link. But this is what's pretty wild, is that there have been a number of people who get a DM and they click on it, and then it claims that your account has been stolen. Oh, your Instagram account has been hacked. You clicked on a link that you shouldn't have clicked on. That itself was the link telling you that, because then it provides you with the link you're supposed to click to type in your username and password to log into Instagram to change your password. No, what you're doing is you're actually handing over your username and password in this false page where you're supposedly logging in. So it's a very dirty tactic. It's a very gross tactic, but it is one that you just have to be aware of, that if you get, if you click on a link and it says, your Instagram account has been hacked, do not follow through with that. Do not listen to that itself. Instead, do what you and I would do, which is to then leave that page altogether and either go in the Instagram app or go to the Instagram website and log in, and then change your password to a new password. Hopefully pseudo-random, but that part's up to you. So go ahead, Rosemary.
Well, what I was going to say is, so if you go into the Instagram app, I'm just going to show people a couple of things that you can do. So first of all, if you go to your profile on the bottom right and then settings, then here there's an entire section on security. And so if you get a message that says your account has been hacked, and then you go look at your login activity, hey, I can see that I'm the only person that's actually logged in or has been logged in for a while. And if I tap on one of these locations, then I can actually see where that session was. It's not that far away. It was actually me a while ago, but I can log it out. And then it does prompt me to change my password. Now, in my case, I'm probably pretty safe from this because I have set up two-factor authentication, and I highly recommend if you use Instagram and you like your account and you want to keep your account and you want to make sure that nobody can get into it, set up two-factor authentication and do that on every single account that is important. Apple require you to have two-factor authentication set up on your Apple ID because it makes it more difficult for other people to hack into your account because they have to get that extra code from you. So set up two-factor authentication on everything, because then people have to have your username, your password, and a key that changes every 30 seconds, which is pretty darn difficult to just guess, just because it's 6 digits, and guessing 6 digits that are constantly changing. It's pretty tricky.
There's also another website that I want to point everyone to. It's called 2FA Directory. It's the number 2, the letter F, the letter A, .directory. And this is just a site that lists all of, well, not all, but many websites online that support two-factor authentication. And then they also will link you to the page where you can learn how to set up 2FA on those sites. So you can type Instagram, for example, and it points you to the help page that shows you how to set up two-factor authentication. It tells you what kind of two-factor authentication they offer, be it SMS, a phone call, an email, a hardware token, or a software token. And you can separate it by type. So if you're looking at banking, if you're looking at government sites, social sites, etc., you'll be able to find the one you're looking for to support 2FA. And then you can also see the sites that don't support two-factor authentication, and that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, you're not keeping my account as safe as it possibly can be. Get that 2FA set up, won't you? Which is quite nice. So those are some things you can do to protect yourself online. Again, just lead with skepticism. If you even, again, sometimes these will be real things, but doing that little bit of extra work to confirm that it's real is going to protect you in those cases where it is not real. If you are leading with skepticism, you're doing a really good job of protecting yourself. And Rosemary has one other tip she wants to give.
Yeah. So if you use the password vault that's built into iOS, the iOS and macOS keychain, which syncs between your devices, in settings, underneath passwords, you can go to security recommendations and you can turn on a feature to detect compromised passwords. And this will then show you if these passwords have been leaked. Now, of course, I've actually changed all of these passwords on various other websites as well. I don't use the iOS keychain anymore. 1Password also has a feature like this. It's called the Watchtower feature, but it also underneath has some other recommendations, reused passwords, and that is something else. If you are reusing passwords, or you have a password that is made out of just one dictionary word, or it's your mother's maiden name, things like that, try not using things like that. And also, extra bonus tip, there's quizzes on social media of like, here's how you get like your super rock star name, of things like that, where it wants you to like input like the first street you lived on, your mother's maiden name, stuff like that. That's people getting data to hack into accounts. Don't fill those out, or if you do it, fill it out with fake data and do the real logic in your head for this sort of thing, just because otherwise that's just another way that people can get you. And sadly, as we all know, there's plenty of people out to get our information online, because information is actually money.
Indeed it is. We'll also include a support document from Apple that talks about detecting compromised passwords and how to change those weak or compromised passwords with built-in documentation. All right, the next bit is about calls and SMS. This is different all over the world. Rosemary and I were talking about this. Depending on from where you hail, it may be different. In the United States, I believe it was the FCC who has basically said, hey, look, carriers, you need to do something about these spam calls, these robocalls that everyone is getting. And not only do you need to do something about it, but you need to, you need to then let people know that you're doing something about it and show them how to set this up to stop this from happening. And so what has happened is different carriers have set up different means by which you can reduce these spam calls that you receive. AT&T has something called Call Protect, and I believe that, or I guess now it's called Active Armor, which has been a sponsor on the network before. Again, it's their way of letting people know that this feature is available. There's a free version, and there's one that you can, one that's far more robust that you can pay a subscription for. T-Mobile has its own, Verizon has its own. Basically, the big carriers have these all set up so that you can take advantage of them. And what they do is they look at a database of known spam callers and unverified numbers, and they will just automatically block those unverified numbers. Then there are some built-in ways that you can do that on your own phone. And Rosemary, you said it's a little bit different in the UK. Do you want to walk us through that process?
Yeah. Well, so on iOS, the actual settings are the same whether you're wherever you are around the world. There may be some variations based on your language and how things appear. I would show it, but it's going to show my phone number, unfortunately, on the screen. But one of the features that you can do inside of the settings app, if you go into phone, there's an option there to silence unknown callers, which means that people who call you from caller withheld will not show up. Now, I do have a caveat to mention about this, which is some places genuinely call with their caller ID withheld. My doctor's surgery is one of them. If they call me, they are calling from a number that's been withheld. There is no way to allow this through focus modes, and there's no way to specifically allow them because, of course, they've withheld their number. So I need to keep that, unfortunately for me, turned off. But I get very few spam calls because I use the other feature that is right there, which a lot of these call blocking apps hook into, which is blocked contacts. Now, I have a huge string of numbers here, but I haven't added any of these manually. These have all been automatically added by the various different apps that I have tried over time, which can hook into this feature. And they block phone calls, but they also block SMS spam from these people, which is really useful so that you can get rid of all of that at the same time.
Nice. I like to have all of that set up as well. I actually use a third-party app because it works much better than the default ones. It's called RoboKiller. And so RoboKiller is this third-party app that has a bunch of extra tools built in. It does have a monthly subscription. And let me, for some reason, it's acting like this is the first time I've used it, but it's definitely not. And so, oh boy. Well, I can't show it because it wants to set it up again for some reason, even though I already have it set up. But RoboKiller is great because it's got a bunch of extra stuff built in, including a database that is constantly being updated. So when folks are calling other people, they can report those numbers. It also has SMS messaging reporting, so you can report SMS spam. The problem is it doesn't really block SMS spam. It just kind of puts these numbers on a list so you can start to block the numbers, but it's not... I find that part not entirely robust. The calling part is robust, though. Very good. So much so that I actually have to pause it occasionally whenever I know I'm going to be getting a call from a new number from my doctor or something like that. I have to block it about for the next 6 hours to make sure that I get that call. But what's handy is that the blocking features are built in, and so you can say block or stop using this put this on pause for the next 6 hours, put this on pause for the next 12 hours. And so then it's stopped at that point, and I'm able to do what I need to there. I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've also used Hiya in the past, and I've had great success with them, and that has worked really well. But honestly, my biggest tip is, again, it goes back to that paranoia. If you get a phone call from a number that you're not expecting, and you're not expecting a phone call, just let it go to voicemail. If it's important, they will leave a message or find another way to contact you. And if it's spam, then you've not wasted your time. Though, of course, there is always the option of picking up a spam call and answering the person from Microsoft about the virus on your Windows PC or Microsoft PC, and just keeping them going for as long as you can if you've got the time to kill. But personally, I usually just let them go to voicemail because they never bother to leave a message, so it can't be that important.
Wonder Warthog in the chat says that they've used both Haya and RoboKiller and feel that Haya is the better platform. So, take that as you will. I've never used Haya. I've just used RoboKiller. But I might give Haya a go just to compare it to RoboKiller because RoboKiller does do that thing on occasion where suddenly it's not connected anymore, even though it had been working the whole time before. So that might be something that I can see if Haya does, and if that one ends up being better. I think we are going to take a quick break before we come back with a few more tips, and then we'll head into the news segment. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Yes, we love IT Pro TV here. If you're tuning into our show, you may have more than a passing interest in IT, but it's new to you and you're not sure where to get started. Well, now you don't have to worry about where to start because you can go straight to IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV has the knowledge and certificates that you need to break into the IT world while being desirable to future employers. January's theme at IT Pro TV is all about getting started in IT. It's the perfect thing, so you'll have a great start to the new year. If you want to dip your toes into IT, check out the following courses to get started. There's CompTIA ITF Plus and CompTIA A+, Linux Essentials, Microsoft 365 Fundamentals, MS900, Hands-on PC build from the bench. That sounds really cool. Cisco CCT routing and switching 100 to 490, and Apple Certified Support Professional Mac OS 11. If you're worried that learning IT can be boring, IT Pro TV is anything but. Their enthusiastic edutainers make learning IT entertaining, interesting, and fun. And if you prefer shorter formats, well, courses are in 20 to 30-minute increments. Just the right length for a short attention span if you have a tight schedule. They've got 7 studios, and they film Monday through Friday. They have the most up-to-date content with every vendor and skill. Their courses go from the studio to their course library in 24 hours, and they make sure you're prepared for your exams with their virtual labs and practice tests. IT Pro TV also has wonderful monthly webinars on demand that you catch up on to get more insight into the world of IT. If you're looking to break into the world of IT, get the introduction you need with IT Pro TV. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code TWIT30. That's itpro.tv/twit and use code TWIT30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. And now we head back to the show. I think one of the most important things that we can do is sort of educate ourselves and others on the spam and phishing schemes that we get. Because if you do, then you start to, there's a really fascinating skill called, and this is going to get a little weird here for a second, but there's a really fascinating skill called chicken sexing. And chicken sexing is where you tell the difference between a male or female chicken, one that lays eggs or one that does not. And this process is one that is not entirely just a sort of skill. It's a kind of an art form, and it's one that requires a lot of experience to actually get. There's actually a chicken sexing school, and the whole idea is that you can over time, it's almost like an intuitive thing where you can tell the difference between the two types of chickens as you are sorting through them. And it becomes, you become better at it the more you do it. And the more that you have, you had an error here. This was actually a female chicken. You thought it was a male chicken as you're going through. And you get better at it over time. And it starts to become second nature. And I think that if you will allow this strange metaphor, I think that it is like that with spam and phishing and all of these kinds of detection, where the more you're exposed to and the more you tell your brain, oh, that's not good. Oh, that actually is real. Oh, that's not real. Oh, this wording is off and is not real. Oh, this wording is right, but it's still not real. Your brain starts to get a little bit better. And so leading with that skepticism and then sharing the different attempts that people have tried against you and talking about them, all of that is going to make you much more able to say, oh, no, this is not something that I'm going to fall for. They're not going to be able to get my money or get my account and be able to use it for spam, etc. So yes, chicken sexing and avoiding phishing schemes. It's all the same, folks.
Yeah. It is. And sometimes it can be a little difficult to tell with some of these things. So this is an email I got from GitHub earlier today. And in this case, it is a genuine email from GitHub. It's from a repository that I contributed to a while ago. But if I was looking at this and I wasn't 100% sure, there's quite a few links in here that could take me anywhere. And it's quite difficult to tell. So what you can do on macOS, of course, is you can drag your mouse over. That works on Windows too. But there is no mouse that you can drag over these links on iOS or iPadOS, which makes it a bit trickier. Hopefully you're not reading your email on your TV. But what you can do is if you tap on it, then if you drag it around, then you can actually see, this is easier to do on the screen, actually, funnily enough, than it is with my finger here. You can actually see that it is actually linking to github.com, which means that I know then that this link is indeed going to github.com, and then I can actually do the sensible thing and go to github.com, not click the link in the email. Just because even if it does say github.com, if you want to just be sure, it's easier to just go to the right place. The exception, of course, to this is password reset emails. But if you didn't request a password reset, you're not getting a password reset email and you shouldn't click on it. So only click on those ones if you're actually expecting it. But other than that, yeah, be very, very, very skeptical and make sure that you don't click on links. And if you want to verify where something has come from, then there are ways to do that too. And it's, in general, if you're getting an email from a company that says, hey, this stuff has happened, they'll have a place on their website where you can see that same information, which means that you can go verify it for yourself, which makes it much easier.
There you go. All right. I think that brings us to the, is there anything else you want to talk about from this first segment before we move on to the news?
Yeah, I did just want to mention scam apps because every so often, despite Apple's crack marketing department, as they refer to them, and the wonderful people in App Review who do their very best, an app sneaks through into the App Store, which is not what it seems. And there are some apps which aren't technically scams, but the way that they bill you is weekly or something, and they're billing you something like $10, $15, $20 a week, or even if it's less than that, if it's a weekly bill, then that's usually an indicator that maybe things aren't quite right. So what I would highly recommend whenever you're downloading an app from the App Store and it comes with that little bubble that says, there's in-app purchases, when you look at the in-app purchases, don't necessarily just read the app's description of what the in-app purchase is. But instead, when you go to purchase something, and I'm just going to pop one up on my phone so I can show everybody, and this is quite difficult to type because I am apparently unable to type the letter S. There we go. So now if I open the in-app purchase screen here, So this app is an app from a trusted developer. It's David Smith, who created Sleep Plus Plus. But here I have the option to purchase the in-app purchase. So if I ignore the text that he's written, then I can see here the exact details of the in-app purchase. I can see the exact price, and if it were a subscription, I can see how frequently it repeats. Now, this is small text, but I highly recommend you verify here before you purchase something, because it's so easy to sign up for a subscription that you think is a one-time purchase or it's a monthly thing, and it turns out it's billing you weekly and it's charging you lots and lots of money. And there have been a couple of reports of these. And of course, you know, there's always other phishing scams and so on where people are trying to get your information, or where people are just trying to get money out of you by saying that, you know, they're hard up or they're in prison and it's not fair because, you know, they didn't actually do it, but they were in the wrong place at the wrong time and so on. But keep an eye out on the App Store as well. And we make a point of only linking to the good stuff here on the show. But you can also do your homework and some due diligence and keep an eye on those things too.
Nice. That is well put. All right, folks. Let's move into the news. We've got a little bit of an accessory announcement. I saw this the other day. I think it's kind of cool. Belkin has a new MagSafe charger that has a kickstand. So it's kind of neat because it's the MagSafe puck that thwops to the back of the, it wasn't a very good sound, but it thwops to the back of the iPhone like normal, but it's got a kickstand on it so that you can set your phone up whenever you have it on. And then it's got this beautiful braided cord and a built-in cable loop so that you can wrap it up and, you know, store it where you need to. I like this quite a bit because it's not Apple's standard cable that kind of wears down after a while. It's also got that built-in utility of being a kickstand, so you can use it while it's charging. Quite nice.
Yeah. The other great thing about this, which I feel was one of the reasons why I felt that I should put it in the docs, is that it's longer. Apple's cable is only a meter, about 3 feet long. This one, I believe, from memory, is 2 meters long, which makes it a much more flexible accessory, especially for travel. Yeah, extra long 2-meter braided USB-C cable, which gives you twice the length. And I know a frequent complaint I've heard about people who've looked at the MagSafe charger and decided against buying it is it's too short. Well, this one is $20 more, but it comes with a kickstand, comes in black or white, and it's 2 meters, which of course makes it a much better option when you need a little bit of extra space. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting one of these and giving it a go, just because I think it is going to be pretty great. And it's from Belkin and sold on the Apple Store. So unlike some of the other third-party options that I've seen on Amazon, we should be able to trust this one that it's not going to try and set our houses on fire.
That I also like, absolutely. All right, then let's see. Oh, this is good. I think we even talked about it on this show. Certainly later on MacBreak Weekly, there's a IndexedDB bug that was leaking people's information. And Rosemary, it seems that they are preparing a fix now. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, yeah, it does seem so. So WebKit, which is an open standard that Apple uses as part of the Safari framework. I'm not going to go into details because I don't know most of them and I don't want to get it wrong because I've met some of the people who work on the Safari team and they're wonderful people. But it looks like Apple are indeed fixing this and there should be a fix out soon. So fingers crossed. And in the meantime, yeah, be careful on the pages that you browse on the internet. The Twit website is safe, and make sure that you are only going to websites that you trust. You're not clicking on any of those spam links because that's the kind of places they're going to be looking for this data so that they can steal it.
Indeed. This is kind of nice because at first, so I think a lot of folks, whether they worked in education or not, took advantage of a little mini discount that you get if you are buying from Apple's educational store. There's like K through 12. There's, working at a university, all sorts of different options for being able to use Apple's educational discount. A certain frequent panelist on some shows on the network and a friend of mine likes to call herself a student of life and therefore takes advantage of Apple's education discount. Apple ended up rolling out a new verification process that a lot of different companies use in order to make sure that you were truly a student at an accredited university or in, K-12, et cetera, et cetera. So where before you didn't really have to prove it, you could just go to Apple's education store and buy things. Apple updated it where you needed to go through this process to verify that you truly were part of an education group of some sort. Well, shortly after they announced the implementation of this new verification process, they then rolled it back. And it doesn't require verification. It's unclear how long this rollback is going to last, because part of the problem was that in fact, iMore says, I think that's iMore. Yeah, iMore says it pauses. And I think that that's a good word to use, because actual, true education affiliated people were having trouble being verified with this system, and so they weren't able to purchase computers and other devices. So Apple put a pause on this new verification process, but it's unclear if they will once again implement it once they get the everything figured out. So I'm curious to see if they will end up kind of rolling things forward again where that verification is required. What do you think, Rosemary?
Well, all I can say is there is UniDays verification on the Education App Store here in the UK, which means that you have to have a verified academic email address of some kind to sign up, and then they do the verification on your behalf with Apple. But I also know from experience, because I did this for a little while after I graduated from my first degree program, that you were able to just keep renewing it as long as your school email address was active. So I'm not 100% certain that I would put a huge amount of stock in UniDays' student verification. I'm not 100% certain if that has changed, but I seem to remember from some conversations I had with some other friends recently that at least over here in the UK, they're still just using the verification method of, we'll send an email to an academic email address. If you verify it, you're all good for a year, which is interesting and maybe not 100% accurate. But if you go into store, then they will ask you for some kind of ID that proves that you are part of some kind of educational institution, or you work in education in some way, shape, or form, which can be relatively easily proven if you are, for example, on a school website as a member of staff or similar. So fingers crossed they will find a way that actually works for everyone and doesn't cause too much distress to those people who actually are verified and should be able to get the discount.
All right, folks. That brings us to the end of the news segment for this week, and we will soon move over to Shortcuts Corner. That's right. I heard the music because it's Shortcuts Corner time. This is the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and Rosemary Orchard, the shortcuts expert, provides an answer. Scott writes in, "Hi, Micah and Rosemary. I love your show and appreciate the way you dig into the tips and tricks of everything iOS. Micah, I really like the way you show us how you apply the health-related services and apps. And Rosemary, your technical wizardry." Scott, that's so kind that you had unique individual bits of compliments. That's so sweet. I have a shortcuts conundrum that I would love Rosemary's help with, please. Between my wife and I, we share a meal planner in Notes. Each week, we try to plan ahead for the family's dinners. We recorded something like this: Sunday, 22nd of January, taco night. Monday, 23rd of January, Rogan, Josh, etc. It's really tedious to write in manually. I know about the bulk add tasks shortcut. However, it's not in the format I'm looking for. Thanks so much for your help, Scott from Sydney, Australia.
Well, I have a couple of solutions for Scott. And the first one I am just spotted a very small bug with, so I'm going to have to update the link in the show notes. But I can go ahead and share my screen, because to start with, I thought let's just tackle the date problem here, because that is the problem that Scott really has, getting all those dates into the Notes app so that he can just write the names of things next to them. And so I've started out with the number 7. It's a number, and I've just done 7. And the reason why I've done that is so that then on this repeat, I can actually just select this number, because then this way, if Josh wants to plan for, 14 meals at a time, he doesn't need to tap that stepper to increase it however many times he wants, or decrease it. It's very easy to change. And so after that, then I'm asking, what's your start date? Because of course, some people meal plan on Sundays, some people will meal plan on Mondays, and some people will meal plan on Fridays for the week starting the next Monday. Whatever it is, this should work for you, fingers crossed. And so then we're going to go through and repeat that number of times, and we're going to format the date. And I've set the date format here to be medium. There we go. So I've done a medium date format and no time, because we really don't want a time on this. And it's a default locale. So that should work for you down in Australia, Sydney, I think it was, Scott. And then it's going to add this variable to a list of variables for us. Add one day to the date. And then we're going to just go through that again, so that then at the end, we should have 7 dates in our variable. Perfect. Then we're going to combine this with new lines. And I've cheated a little bit here. I'm using Markdown. So a single hash mark followed by some words in Markdown is a H1 header. And then I'm converting that to rich text. And then here is the test. Okay, so I'm going to say that I want to start my meal planning on Sunday. And then it's going to go through and okay, that's actually got quite a few more dates in there than I needed, but that's okay. I will just leave that as it is for the time being, and I will make sure I will fix that tiny little bug afterwards. But I thought, how about I do something just a little bit better for Scott? Because, why not? I can easily do something just a tiny bit better for him. And I'm just going to fix that little bug that I saw earlier where I forgot to convert the rich Markdown into rich text, because I was doing this quickly while I was on my lunch break, and I did not realize that I had missed that step, because of course I always write everything in Markdown because that's who I am. So this does almost exactly the same thing, only after you have done this, it's going to ask you to choose which dates you want to plan your meals for from that group of meal planning days. And then for every day that you say you want to plan a meal for, it's going to ask you what the meal is for the day. And then it's going to combine all of that and put it into a new note. So I am going to start on the 30th again. And this time I'm just going to pick a couple of days, because I don't want to be sitting here for ages. And then I can say, I'm going to have rice on Sunday. And then I'll have pasta on Monday. And I'm really not doing very well. I'm going to have to stick with carbohydrates, Micah. So I guess it's going to be bread on the Tuesday. And there, if I just tap done on the other ones, that is not quite working in exactly the way I expected, but that's fine. I appear to have a slight bug because I created this one on the Mac, and of course it's broken on my iPhone a tad. So I'll make sure that one is fixed before it actually ends up in Scott's hands. But if I tap done, so you can easily just skip a day by tapping done if you're not sure what you want to write in there yet. I've got a lot of days in here. Well done, Rose. And some of them are in there twice. Excellent. Either way, it has then created a note for me in the background, and that is back in Notes. So that's with the space in there. So fingers crossed, one of these will work for you, and I will make sure that the correct links end up in the show notes for those. I think something went a little buggy with the Mac OS to iOS transition there, because of course Shortcuts does work on the Mac too, so you could run these on your Mac.
In theory.
Well, it worked perfectly on the Mac. It was when it's the actual running it on iOS that I apparently forgot to test, and there is a slight bug in there. But either way, we'll get that fixed for him.
Excellent. Thomas writes in, Dear Rosemary and Micah, I have been watching the show from Germany and Bavaria since the beginning. Great show you both are doing. Thanks, Thomas, and thanks for being a long-time listener. Rosemary, I have a shortcut or automation question, which I think is very difficult, smiley face. Every evening, I want to set my alarm clock to a specific time. Let's say at 6 a.m., then my radiator should start heating at 5:45 a.m. I'm looking for a solution where a shortcut asks me when I want to wake up the next day and automatically turn my radiator on 15 minutes earlier without additional radiator settings. So only entering the wake up time. Is that possible? Thank you for your help. Stay safe, Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. I imagine this is a HomeKit enabled radiator that Thomas is using.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. Though I've got a couple of ideas for this. So the first one is just out of the box on iOS with HomePods and things like that. There is no way to just do this without some extra help, which I'm going to get to in a second. But the way that you can do it, if you're willing to take an extra action, and you're going to need to talk to Siri on one of your devices for this. And so you'll say, hey, Apple lady, obviously substitute it with the correct word. Hey, Apple lady, turn my radiator on at 5:45 a.m. And then that's a one-time automation. That's not going to run every day. But if you set it up via Siri, it will happen just once. And so it's not going to do it every single time. So if one day you wake up at 6 and the next day you wake up at 8, it is going to adjust that for you, which is great. However, I'm hoping that maybe Thomas's radiators weren't originally HomeKit enabled. So maybe he's already running something like Homebridge. Because if he's running something like Homebridge, then there is this great calendar plugin for Homebridge where you can add a calendar. And so you can subscribe to a calendar, and that will basically just turn a sensor on and off when there's a calendar event. And you're probably going, wait, where is she going with this? Well, if you create a separate calendar in whatever account you're using, it doesn't matter. It could be iCloud, Google, Fastmail, whatever, any choice. If you can subscribe to it or share the link to it so that the Homebridge plugin can read it, then it can see that. So then what you can do is a little bit of shortcuts magic. And I wasn't 100% certain here because Thomas didn't specify if he wanted to set the time for the alarm. So I haven't done that in here, but that'll be easy to add, and I'll show you how afterwards. So what I've done is I've called this Set My Alarm for Tomorrow. I imagine, as Thomas is in Bavaria, he'll probably want to rename it to something like Alarm for Morgen setzen. But that's all doable. And then what it's going to do is just ask for time. And that's all it does. It just asks for time. It sets the time to now. You could set a default time if you wanted to. So if Thomas usually gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's 06:09. That's very close, but not quite. There we go. Then if I change that, then it will instead use that as the default. Then it's going to subtract 15 minutes from that, and then it's going to add heat the radiator to a calendar. And this is the first part of the automation. The other part of the automation is then going to be adding a HomeKit action so that then when that sensor turns on, then we can then it will actually turn on the heater. And so what we'll do is we'll use the sensor, and I'm just going to use a humidity sensor as an example for now. But either way, that's fine. So when that turns on to whatever the setting is, then I am going to turn on this particular light in that example. And then you just turn it to whatever settings you need, whether that's an on or off, or maybe if it is an actual temperature controlled radiator, then you can actually set a thermostat, and you can even specify a specific temperature so that you can control it like that. And then you're done. And then that's it. And you can even use, if you do this, you can actually say turn off after, say, 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Because I imagine if Thomas only wants the radiator to preheat for 15 minutes before he gets up, it's pretty efficient. So that's a couple of ideas for you, Thomas. Fingers crossed. One of them will work. But don't forget, everybody, you can just say, hey, Apple lady, do this at that time. And she will.
Nice. Yes, I like that there are multiple options there, but it's always fun whenever folks have, more complicated options if they want to take them. All right, we've got some feedback next, just a little bit of feedback before we round things out with our app caps. First bit of feedback comes from David. Wow. Hello, Rosemary and Micah. Longtime follower here from the Arctic Circle in Norway. Thank you for delighting us with such a wonderful show every week. Thank you, David. That's so cool. I have a very specific task I'm struggling with and wonder if you could help me with an automation routine or something else. Here in Norway, as in most of the world, it has been extremely difficult to get a PlayStation 5. One of the most active tech enthusiast communities in the country has a forum thread where an update is posted immediately when the PS5 is in stock somewhere in Norway. The forum immediately sends an email to the followers of this thread. I need my iPhone to notify me with a prominent sound and alert sound every time I get this email. It's not an email thread, so the notify me bell doesn't work. And I get other emails from this forum, so I can't mark the sender as a VIP. What can I do? I really appreciate your help. Thank you. Regards, David. This is sounding like an IFTTT, Zapier sort of situation here. Rosemary, it looks like you have a few different thoughts on how this could be done.
Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to find an application that can send iOS critical alerts. And so an iOS critical alert is an alert that will break through. So it could be used, for example, for things like earthquakes or when certain governments like to test whether or not their earthquake system is working and send out test alerts to everybody. Love that feature. But there's also, it's also used by HomeKit, for example, for things like flood sensors and things like that. And there's various different apps out there that support you creating your own custom notifications that come through as critical alerts. And Home Assistant, for people who are very nerdy into home automation, is one of them. But Pushover is a great candidate for this because it supported critical notifications or critical alerts since February of 2020. So this is pretty well tested now. And they've got a little post on their blog showing how you can set that up so that you can have it set to 1 for loud to 11 for deafeningly loud if you enable that kind of critical alert. So that's a start. So now we know how to send the notification. How do we get it to send the notification? And for this, I've personally gone with two options, Zapier and Integromat. Both of them have excellent free plans. You may well also be able to do this with If This Then That. But essentially what you'll need to do, David, is you need to set up a forwarder in your email that forwards just those emails from the forum software with that subject. You mentioned the exact subject, but unfortunately neither Micah nor I speak Norwegian. So I left that one out of the content. But if you set that email up to be forwarded to the service, then you can set either Zapier or Integromat, both of them work the same way, up to receive that email. And then when they receive that email, then they can send a push-cut critical alert notification for you, which will allow you to be notified the second that PS5 is in stock, fingers crossed. So yeah, that is my suggestion to that. It is going to require you going a little off book, but I think the results are worth it in this case.
Yes, if you're trying to get that PS5 as quickly as possible, it's worth going through the process of getting that all set up. Sheppo writes in, hello, Mike and Rosemary. Hello, Sheppo. My Safari iCloud tabs do not sync between iPhone and iPad. On my iPhone, I cannot see the tabs that are opened on my iPad and vice versa. I have gone to Settings iCloud and enabled Safari for both my iPhone and iPad. Both devices are signed in to the same iCloud account and both running iOS 15.2.1. Sheppo, this is an ongoing issue that I've seen a lot of people experience. It typically works a little bit differently for them, though. It goes the other way. The iCloud tabs stay for far longer than they should. In fact, I think there's, iCloud zombie tabs. Zombie tabs from MacBook Pro show up on all other devices. Zombie Phantom macOS Safari iCloud tabs. How to delete Zombie Safari open tabs in iCloud. There are all of these different threads and different forums talking about how they've got it. It says, if anyone else encounters such a problem, just re-log into your iCloud account on the device where the zombie tabs come from. I would not want to have to do that. It's just an ongoing sync issue where it seems to me, Rosemary, that iCloud tabs, that part is not getting as much priority in terms of what gets synced whenever things are kind of moving between devices. And so regardless of what you're using, there could be an issue. But go ahead, Rosemary, because it sounds like you've got some thoughts.
So I have a thought on this because a friend of mine recently said to me, and, he's pretty nerdy and is a developer, so he's good at figuring this stuff out. He was like, where are my iCloud tabs on my iPhone? I can't see them. And first of all, if you just go into the tab section, so I'm just going to quickly switch to my iPhone so you can see, yes, I was shopping for a new bed and stuff earlier today. Then you can see tabs, but your iCloud tabs from other devices won't appear here. Also, you can see at the bottom any tab groups you've got, which do sync between devices. They might take a little while, but they do show up. But if you go into a new tab and you go to a new empty tab, then you've got a whole bunch of different areas. There's favorites, frequently visited, shared with you, privacy support, Siri suggestions, reading list. And then right at the bottom of this, there's from, and then this is the name of my laptop, Voyager. I can also go to Pegasus. Yes, I've named my computers after Star Trek Enterprise ships.
Love it.
Then I can also switch to my iPad and my iPad Pro. And this is how you can actually see this. And also there's a show more and show less button, which doesn't necessarily catch your eye immediately because there's another button right next to it where you can switch things. So what you can do is if we just scroll down to the bottom of this, if you tap on the edit button, then you can actually get rid of a whole bunch of these different sections that you might not want, or you can even go ahead and reorder things. You can also customize the background image and stuff, though that might be one of the features in betas. But it will use the same start page on all of your devices. And then, hey, look at that. I have all of those tabs from my iPad Pro, and, you know, I can switch to any other device. So that's worth giving a try to if you haven't already tried that, Cheapo. Other than that, I'm afraid it might just be a case of sit and wait for them to sync, and hopefully they will.
Yep. / Apple fixing this, I think that it lasts a little bit too long for it not to be in some sort of bug that needs to be fixed. Because, as I said, you go online and you type in zombie tabs or phantom tabs, and you can see how many other people have experienced similar issues. I think that there's a little bit more ironing out to do there that will hopefully make it so that your tabs show up and other people's tabs disappear as they want them to. So sorry, we don't have a super great answer for you other than something that I don't really recommend, which is logging out of iCloud or logging back in, or Rosemary's option, which I do recommend, which is a little bit easier and doesn't require full log out or anything like that. All right, folks, that's the end of our feedback and questions segment, which means it's time for App Caps. All right, it's time for App Caps, the part of the show where we place caps atop our head to honor our app picks of the week, and then we share those app or gadget picks of the week with you. And with our caps properly placed, Rosemary Orchard, tell us about the cap atop your head, and then tell us about your app pick of the week.
All right. Well, the cap atop my head, you can't really tell, but it's actually gray with sparkle knit. And I did not knit this one myself, but I do actually have the pattern for it. And so pretty. I might actually end up making that because, you know, who doesn't love a nice little gray beret? And my app cap is one I kind of accidentally hinted on the show earlier today. Well, accidentally on purpose. My app cap of the week is Sleep++, because Sleep++ is a great app. It's an oldie but a goodie. I mentioned the developer earlier, David_Smith. He is a trustworthy developer. He's got lots of apps in the App Store. He's the maker of Widgetsmith and WatchSmith for those people who love customizing their home screen and watch faces. But Sleep++ is a great way to hook into the data inside of your iPhone and so on, and just get it in a nice summary format so you don't have to go diving through the health app. And you can easily see at a glance what's working well and maybe which of those nights you just didn't really get enough sleep on. But the reason why it's my app cap this week is, first of all, it's a free app with a $1.99 in-app purchase to unlock everything. But there are no ads anyway. But what you can do now is there's a readiness score. And I don't know about you, Micah, but I have some days where I just feel like I'm not up for anything today. I can't do anything. And I think that it's my sleep affecting me. And so I have to confess, I did go back and doctor some of the past nights of sleep results here. As you can see, usually I do pretty well. On Saturday, the 15th of January, I was 100% rested. Excellent. And then as you can see, like some of the more recent ones I've modified, 8 and 9, whoops, those aren't very good. But if you actually get enough sleep, then of course you will see a much higher readiness score. But what I like about this app is it does just give me the information. I can easily see when things started and ended, and I can easily adjust something. So when something's actually not right, I can go back and I can just adjust things just that little bit and make them a lot better than they were, or at least a little bit better. And, you'll see that's increased my score from, I believe it was 9 to 10. Definitely still not getting enough sleep on that particular night. But I do just like this app because it does just have lots of data, and it's got a great way of just giving you all of that data. So you can see things like your sleeping heart rate or how long your sleep duration is, and whether or not things are improving or not improving. If your bedtime is consistent, or in my case, apparently very inconsistent, and I really need to start going to bed earlier. Well, I do, but I also need to stop doctoring data so that I can show things off on iOS Today. But you can go through each of the different days here, and you can see how things compare overall to your averages and other days in the week, so that you can actually get an idea of some of those trends that are going on. If you go into the settings, then it gives you a little bit of the sleep quality guide. You can manually record nights and things like that as well. And you can get a summary of your sleep data in the morning. I set this up and then unfortunately forgot to take a screenshot when it popped up this morning and swiped it away. So this is a great app, but the other part of it that I really like is I can actually have this on my Apple Watch so that it will show up on the watch face that I wear at night, because I use an automation, of course, to change my watch face at night. We talked about this on the last episode of iOS Today. So I have a watch face at night, and I use the extra large face with one complication, which is my Sleep Plus Plus complication. So I can easily see the time at a glance, and then I can also easily get to my Sleep Plus Plus data. So I can see, hey, yeah, you've actually had 8 hours sleep. You can get up now, or no, it's been 3 hours and it just feels like you've had a really restful night. Maybe get some more sleep. I'm definitely going to be taking some homework away from this episode, which is get more sleep. But I am really pleased with this update to Sleep Plus Plus. It's a very good, very simple app with all of the data.
Awesome. I think it's fantastic. Sleep is incredibly important, more important than even like folks hear that and they go, I know, I've heard that 1,000 times, but I've done a lot of research and study on sleep in the past. And I think we severely underestimate just how important sleep is. And we're learning more and more all the time that sleep is even more important than we realized. I have an ongoing subscription to the journal Sleep, and there are always new studies coming out that are really kind of terrifying at the impact of insomnia and sleeplessness on our bodies. So do what you can to get more sleep. And if you need an app to tell you it's okay to get more sleep, then by golly, use that app to do so. I am wearing a king's crown, I think is what it is. At the top of my head, it might also be a bishop's hat. I don't know. The point is, it's a very gold and red hat with a sort of cross on the top of it. And it's large and goofy, and I am wearing it at the top of my head. The thing I want to talk about is something that I was pretty certain was going to be the case. I was pretty certain that I was going to feel this way, and I'm glad that I do. Long ago, in a distant land, I purchased the Waymo Stage Scene Controller. This was a little remote device that has 3 stateless switches on it, 3 stateless buttons on it, 1, 2, and 3. And this was a thing that Belkin's Waymo made that does not work with the Waymo app at all or anything like that. It is meant to be used with HomeKit. So you don't even use the app. You can't use the app to set it up. You set it up in the Home app directly. And it would give you 3 buttons that you can use to control all sorts of things. You can control different accessories in your home, different HomeKit-enabled accessories, or you can use it to control scenes in your home. And this device was, the reason why I purchased it was because they set it up so that eventually it would work with Thread. Up to that point, though, it worked via Bluetooth, and it was absolute crap. It was terrible. It didn't work. And the few times when it did work, it would take so long for it to actually work. So I kept it in a drawer and said, I'm not using you until you add Thread support. Then the Thread group did a case study with the Waymo Stage Scene Controller with Thread, and I was a little bit upset. And I talked about it at the time on my once show Smart Tech Today about how it was a little bit perturbing that the company, the Thread group decided to do a case study on something that wasn't even available to the public yet, the Thread support. But the Thread update finally came to the Waymo remote, the Waymo Stage Scene Controller. And as I expected, it is night and day different. You press the button and it does the thing, which is not what it did before when it was Bluetooth. In fact, Scooter X just shared in the chat, in the Club Twit chat, the tweet that I sent where it says, before the Thread group firmware update, utterly useless. You're going back in the box. After the Thread group firmware update, OMG, I need one of these for every room. And I truly do, because this little $49.99 remote is so fantastic. So right now I have it set up so that one triggers a scene that I call on air. That turns on my studio lights and the different lights in my space and sets the two Hugo lights to blue and purple. Two, which turns off all of the lights in my studio and in my office. And then three, which is what I call night light. And it just turns on those two lights at a deep red so that if I need to come in here at night, I can come in here without it blasting my retinas. So watch this. I press 3 and immediately it's already done the thing that I asked it to do. I press 1 and immediately it's already doing the thing that I asked it to do. Some people are probably going like, why is that so special? You have to understand that this before you'd press it and sometimes it would work 2 minutes later. Sometimes it wouldn't work at all. Sometimes it would, you would press the button and nothing would happen. Sometimes you'd press the button and then you press another button out of frustration and then the first thing would happen instead of the second thing. It was absolute garbage as a Bluetooth remote. But now with Thread, it does what I want it to do when I want it to do it, and it does it immediately. Like, that is all I want from my devices, and this is truly magical in how well it works. I am so happy with the Waymo Stage Scene Controller with Thread, which is something I never thought I would say about sadly about a Belkin device, because for the most part, I do not recommend Waymo products. That may change whenever I'm also going to be testing out the Waymo plug with Thread support, because the Waymo switches from before, I've always had issues with those. They've always had disconnectivity, all sorts of issues. But now with Thread support, I just press the button and the thing happens. And I'm just looking forward to the future of the smart home with Thread. So that's worth checking out. Waymo Stage Scene Controller with Thread, $49.99. Now that it has Thread support, the important thing is that you have to have a Thread border router in your home of some sort, meaning a HomePod Mini, one of the newest generation of Apple TVs. Some of the Eve Home products are also Thread border routers. It's still a little confusing how all of that works, but if you are thinking about getting one of these, feel free to reach out to me if you're not sure what you might need, if anything that you already have works. You can always reach out, and I'd be happy to help you answer those questions. But I got to tell you, night and day. And finally, something that was worth the cost. I was so pumped whenever that firmware update rolled through and I was able to set it up with Thread support. So yeah, that's that, which means it's time for the end of the show, which is the part where I tell you that you can email us if you have Shortcuts Corner requests, if you have feedback and questions, if you do need help with Thread or anything like that, iOS2day@twit.tv. You can tune in live to watch the show while we're recording it. We do that every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So you just head to twit.tv/live to watch there. But we think the best way to get the show is to subscribe to the show or follow the show, depending on where you are subscribing or following. you can do that by going to twit.tv/iOS if you're not already subscribed or following, and choosing to by clicking on subscribe to audio or subscribe to video, and then deciding which provider you want to use. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all those different places. We try to be in all of those different places. And that is all available at twit.tv/iOS. The video version of the show, we think, is the best version of the show, but we do our best to give audio descriptions so that if you are just listening, that gives you what you need to know for the show. By the way, if you'd like to get all of our shows ad-free, you can. All you do is head to twit.tv/clubtwit to check out Club Twit and join the club. For $7 a month, what do you get? Well, you get every single one of our shows ad-free. All of them ad-free, so you can check them all out. You get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else, including AMAs with many of the hosts and panelists on the show, plus a lot of other cool stuff behind the scenes, pre-show, post-show stuff, all sorts of goodies, and access to the Discord server. If you're wondering what that is, well, if you've ever used Slack or Microsoft Teams, then you'll be familiar with the way that this is set up. It's just a place to go and chat with your friends, your fellow Club Twit members, but also those of us here at Twit as well, and panelists, etc. Twit.tv/clubtwit, $7 a month to check that out. And for those of you who've said, hey, I just want to support the show that I listen to directly, well, there is a way to do that. You head in via Apple Podcasts. You type in iOS Today. You find the audio feed of the show, and you'll find a new button that says subscribe. For $2.99 a month, you get the ad-free version of the audio feed. So that is a way to support the show that you want directly without worrying about all that extra stuff. So either way, Club Twit at $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit, or in Apple Podcasts, the audio version ad-free. Those are things you can do. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do so?
Best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to all the things I do in all the various places online. Or you can just head to Twitter and follow me there with username Rosemary Orchard. Of course, if you are a Club Twit member, then you can find me in the Club Twit Discord as well, in the iOS Today channel, which I try and keep an eye on, especially when we're trying to get all of that feedback in for the show. And I do visit the Twit IRC when we're recording too. Micah, what about you?
I am at Micah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. And of course, here on the Twit Network for Tech News Weekly. And soon I'll be rejoining Leo for the Tech Guy on Saturdays. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to those of you who've written in with your questions and your feedback and your thoughts and all that great stuff. Rosemary and I love doing this show for all of you. And thank you for the time you spend listening to us each week. Until next time, we say goodbye. Goodbye.
So you got yourself the brand new latest and greatest iPhone or Samsung smartphone because you heard about all of the beautiful photography those things can create. But for some reason, you're just not quite getting it done when you try to make your photos. Or you got yourself a brand new camera because you were interested in getting started in photography, but your little new inexpensive camera still isn't quite cutting it. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands-On Photography, here on Twit. I'm going to show you how to be a better photographer and a better post-processor, and quite frankly, just help you get the most out of that new camera that's either on your phone or the brand new one that you just got for your birthday or gifts or what have you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So head on over to twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP and subscribe today.